2 years ago, my father left my mother to go with his mistress, whom I will call Anna, fake name. My mother never had any idea about the infidelity. Anna knew that my father was married. She even went to the house with him to take his things. One day, he simply told my mother that he is no longer in love with her and wants to be happy with Anna. I was there when everything happened. Anna was also depressed. She has many scars on her legs and arms. I don't go to my father's house. It makes me uncomfortable to be around them for obvious reasons. Anna is overly nice, and it's really uncomfortable. A few days ago, it was my grandfather's birthday, and the whole family was together, including Anna. I have an aunt who suffers from depression and other more heavy things like schizophrenia. She has tried to hurt herself many times. At one point in the night, there were only my father, my aunt, Anna, another aunt, and I in the living room. For some reason, my aunt and Anna were talking about some serious things, and at one point Anna began to say that depression made her do many things trying to feel fulfilled, that she could only overcome depression when she met my father, and he saved her, that meeting him was the key to overcome her depression, and now she's finally happy thanks to him. I know about that because Anna often tried to bond with me by telling me how much she suffered in her life and how my father saved her. She has always justified herself that she was depressed and was in a hard place in her life before my father saved her. Always make me feel uncomfortable, and I don't feel empathy for her no matter how sweet she is. Talking about how many times you try to uninstall yourself in front of my 8-year-old sister, it's not something normal. Anna has always tried to paint her relationship with my father as a fairy tale that began in a different way, but that she doesn't regret anything because her world is perfect now. At that moment, my aunt said something like, "I tried to save myself by going to a psychologist, not by jumping on the stick of a married man." And then she began to say that depression made her want to jump off a bridge, but not ruin a family. I just laughed. It was funny. My aunt may have her mind elsewhere all day, but it was crazy to see her make such a sly comment. But when my father was taking me home, Anna was crying, and he scolded me for laughing at what my aunt said, saying that no one knows everything that Anna suffered. I know. She always talks about that. I didn't apologize, but now I think, was I really wrong to laugh? From my point of view, my aunt was right. Update 1. Hello. Some things happened over the weekend. My aunt came home, I live with my mother, and told my mom what happened. My mother hates my dad for obvious reasons, but still she's been really nice to him and tried to keep us out of all those problems they have. My mother is honestly a saint. My sister is an 8-year-old girl, and she really hates Anna. Anna once tried to get along with my sister and told her about the time she wanted to commit self-uninstallation and how my dad saved her. After that, my sister came home asking my mother if she had ever thought about committing uninstallation. That's not a question an 8-year-old girl should ask, and my sister even asked me questions about uninstallation after that. I don't really know what else exactly Anna said to her, but it definitely affected her as a little girl. It's not even something you should talk about with a girl of that age. My mother was furious, and since that day, she forbids my father to have my younger sister near Anna, as she considers her a dangerous and unstable person around children. Since that day, things have been really tense between my father and my mother. My little sister doesn't want to visit our father, so she is fine with this. My aunt told my mother that Anna talked about it again, but this time in front of me. Apparently, my father and Anna were totally forbidden to talk about these things in front of me too. I'm not a little kid, but apparently that was the arrangement my mother made with my father when she set boundaries for them. My aunt told her what happened that day, and I confessed to my mother that Anna and my father talk a lot about those uninstall attempts in front of me, which is something I should have talked about before, but at that moment I didn't want problems and decided to just ignore them. I told my mom that for that reason I am not going to my father's house anymore, and my mother got very upset with him. The next day, she went to talk to my father. I don't know what they talked about. She just came back saying that Anna can't get close to us anymore. She told me that she can't forbid me from being near my father, and that's my decision, but Anna is extremely forbidden to set foot in the same place where I and my sister are. My paternal grandparents agreed, and my aunts too. They knew about the situation with my younger sister. I haven't spoken to my father, but my cousin told me that my father argued with my grandfather. He often says that Anna is a good person and we don't understand the pain she suffered. So I guess he's upset with all of us now for our great lack of empathy, as he always says. I don't know. At least now I won't see them for a while. Update 2. Hi. I wasn't planning to make another update, but we've had a lot of problems with Anna. Too many, and I think now even my father has realized that she's crazy. I have stopped going to see my father, and my father's parents stopped allowing him to go with Anna to their house since I am there a lot, and my mother does not allow her to come near me or my sister. Anna began to have the strange behavior of starting to send me texts. First, she apologized to me, but insisted that my father misses me and my sister. I replied to her that my mother does not allow us to talk to her, and she said that she is my father's partner, so we have to get used to her being around. She started to talk badly about my mother, saying that I'm too young to realize it, but my mother is manipulating us, and that's wrong because she's not allowing us to be a family. I'm young, but I'm not dumb. I didn't answer her again and showed the messages to my mother, who spoke to my father again. My father knew nothing about this and apparently had an argument with Anna about this, since now my mother is planning to take away his last name from our name to end with this shit show and protect us. I don't understand too much about this, but in my country you can go to court and take out your father's surname, making him have no right over you anymore. I honestly believe that neither my sister nor I would have any problem with this, but I think my mother just said that to scare him. This is something I heard from my aunt, and I don't know how much of this is real, but my father has been staying at my grandparents' house. One of those nights Anna went to knock on the door looking for him just to argue. She and my father began to argue. Anna yelled at my dad that he couldn't leave her like that, but nothing else happened because my grandfather kicked her out. My aunt also told me that my father told her that Anna sends him messages like, "If you leave me, I will uninstall myself. You can't leave me." So my father is afraid of leaving her and afraid of her. Less than 2 days ago, I found out that my father had to leave work quickly because she sent him goodbye messages. Nothing happened to her. She just outcheated her arms as always. My aunt said that this is something that Anna has always done. Even when the affair started, she sent him messages saying that she was about to commit uninstallation so that my father would go to her. This is something that Anna also told me, but in a more romantic way. It always scared me. I have no contact with my father and I avoid him when he's on Grandpa's house, but as far as my aunt has told me, he doesn't know what to do since he misses us but is afraid to leave her and that she will uninstall herself. I feel bad for thinking this, but I'm really relieved to be hearing all this from afar. I'm so thankful that my mom forbade us to see her before all this happens, and honestly this is his karma, so I'm not going to get into this. Update 3. So, I didn't think I'd have more to say, but of course life. First, let's get the obvious out of the way. Anna and my father are still together, if you can even call it that. My father seems more like her personal hostage at this point. Every time he tries to pull away, Anna ramps up the drama to insane levels. And when I say insane, I mean full-on soap opera levels of drama. After the whole goodbye message incident, my dad stayed glued to Anna, terrified she might actually follow through on her threats. But the problem is, it's clear he's suffocating. My aunt, the one with schizophrenia, told me she saw him crying in his car outside my grandparents' house. And that's not something my dad does, ever. He's always been the tough-it-out kind of guy, but now, he's breaking down, and it's obvious to everyone. Anna, on the other hand, seems to be thriving in all the wrong ways. She's been showing up at my grandparents' house more frequently, despite them clearly not wanting her there. She's playing the victim card to the max, always talking about how no one understands her pain and how my dad is the only person who's ever cared about her. It's exhausting, even from the sidelines. But here's where things get really messed up. Anna started messaging me again. This time, it wasn't just her usual manipulative nonsense. She sent me this long, rambling message about how I'm the only one who can help her and that I need to convince my dad to stay with her, or else. You know what she implied. I didn't reply. I didn't even show my mom this time because, honestly, I'm just over it. Instead, I blocked her number, and now I'm just hoping she doesn't show up at my school or something. That's the kind of vibe I'm getting from her at this point, like she's ready to go full stalker mode. Then there's my mom. She's been trying to keep things calm at home, but I can tell she's worried. Not just for us, but maybe even for my dad. Despite everything he's done, she doesn't want him to be dragged down by Anna. But she also knows that she can't get involved anymore, especially with all the legal stuff she's got brewing. Speaking of legal stuff, my mom did actually start the process of removing my father's last name from ours. She's serious about cutting ties, and honestly, I can't blame her. My sister's been doing a lot better since all this went down. She's happier, more like her old self, and the less we hear about Anna, the better. But here's the kicker. Yesterday, my dad showed up at our house. Alone. He looked like he hadn't slept in days, and he just stood there on the doorstep like he didn't know what to say. My mom didn't let him in, but they talked outside for a while. I didn't hear everything, but I caught bits and pieces. Apparently, Anna's been spiraling even more, and my dad's starting to realize he's in way over his head. He told my mom he feels trapped, but that he's too scared to leave her because of what she might do. My mom told him that it's not her responsibility to fix this, and she's right. It's not, but I could see the concern in her eyes, and that's what gets me. She still cares, even after everything. The conversation ended with my dad walking away, saying he didn't know what to do. My mom just sighed and went back inside, like she was carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. So, that's where we're at. My dad's stuck in this nightmare of his own making. Anna's spiraling out of control, and my mom's doing everything she can to protect us from the fallout. As for me, I'm just trying to stay out of it all, but it's like I'm caught in the eye of the storm. Update 4. Just when I thought things couldn't get any more chaotic, this week took a sharp left turn into full-blown madness. So, after that conversation my mom had with my dad on the porch, things seemed to quiet down for a few days. My dad didn't reach out, Anna didn't send any more crazy messages, and for a brief moment, I started to believe that maybe, just maybe, things were going to stabilize. I was wrong. A few nights ago, around midnight, I woke up to the sound of someone pounding on our front door. At first, I thought I was dreaming, but the knocking kept getting louder and more frantic. My mom was already up, and I heard her footsteps rushing down the hall. I crept out of my room, curious but also freaked out, and peeked down the stairs. It was Anna, in the flesh. She was standing on our doorstep in the middle of the night, soaking wet from the rain, her hair plastered to her face and looking absolutely deranged. She was yelling for my mom to let her in, saying she needed to talk to her, to me, to anyone who would listen. She kept saying she had nowhere else to go, that my dad had left her, and that she didn't know what to do. My mom, bless her heart, actually opened the door a crack and tried to talk to her. But Anna wasn't having it. She was screaming, crying, and practically begging to come inside. My mom told her to calm down and that this wasn't the place for her to be right now, but Anna just kept getting more hysterical. She was saying things like, "You're the only one who can help me, and if I don't talk to him, I don't know what I'll do." That's when I realized she wasn't just talking about my dad. She wanted to talk to me. She actually tried to push past my mom to get into the house, calling my name, saying she needed to explain everything, that I didn't understand what was really going on. It was terrifying. I've never seen someone so unhinged in my life. My mom slammed the door in her face and immediately called the police. Anna started pounding on the door again, and for a moment, I honestly thought she was going to break it down. I could hear her sobbing and pleading from the other side, but it was like something inside me had snapped. All the fear, the anger, the frustration, it all just bubbled up into this cold, hard resolve. I didn't care what her excuses were anymore. I just wanted her gone. The police showed up pretty quickly, and they managed to get Anna to leave without too much of a scene. I watched from the window as they talked to her, their flashlights illuminating her pale, rain-soaked face. She looked defeated, like all the fight had drained out of her. They didn't arrest her, but they did make sure she left our neighborhood. After that, my mom sat me and my sister down and told us that she was going to file a restraining order against Anna. She didn't want to take any chances, and frankly, neither did I. My sister was shaken up, but I think she was more confused than anything. She's too young to fully grasp how messed up this situation is, but she's old enough to know that something isn't right. As for my dad, I found out later that night what had triggered Anna's breakdown. Apparently, he finally decided to leave her. My grandparents convinced him that he needed to get out before things got any worse, and he finally listened. He packed up his things and told her it was over. Of course, Anna didn't take it well, and that's what led her to show up at our house like a crazy person. But here's the thing. My dad didn't come back to us. He didn't come to apologize or try to fix things. No, he's staying at some friend's house, trying to keep a low profile until Anna calms down. Typical. He's too scared to face the consequences of his actions, so he's running away again. I haven't spoken to him. I don't want to. I'm done with his excuses and his cowardice. My mom seems done too. She's been talking to her lawyer about speeding up the process of removing his last name from ours. She says it's about protecting us, and I believe her, but I also think she's finally ready to cut ties completely. And honestly, I think that's the best thing for all of us. The thing is, I'm not sure this is over. Anna might be gone for now, but I don't think she's done causing chaos. People like her don't just disappear quietly into the night. They hang on, clawing for whatever scraps of control they can get. Update 5. Just when I thought I had seen it all, the last few days have been a complete roller coaster of emotions. It's like every time I think we've hit rock bottom, someone hands us a shovel and says, "Keep digging." After the police incident with Anna, I figured she'd lay low for a while, at least long enough for the restraining order to go through. But, of course, nothing ever goes as planned when it comes to Anna. I was wrong, very wrong. 2 days ago, my mom got a call from my dad out of the blue. He sounded frantic, which was unusual enough. But what he said next was even more surprising. Anna had gone missing. She left a bunch of rambling notes at her apartment, full of her usual melodrama about how she couldn't live without my dad and how this was all some kind of tragic love story that had to end the way it began, whatever that means. My dad was losing it on the phone, saying he was scared she might actually go through with her threats this time. He said he'd been trying to reach her for hours, but her phone was off, and no one had seen her since the night she showed up at our house. My mom stayed calm, but I could tell she was shaken. She asked him what he expected her to do about it, and he just kept saying he didn't know who else to call. Here's where things get really insane. Later that day, my mom got another call, this time from my grandparents. Anna had shown up at their house, of all places. She was disheveled, crying, and talking nonsense about how she needed to make things right with my dad's family before she could find peace. My grandfather, who's usually pretty calm and collected, sounded just as freaked out as my dad. Anna had apparently been sitting in their living room for hours, refusing to leave, and they didn't know how to get rid of her without escalating the situation. My mom told them to call the police, but before they could, Anna had some sort of meltdown and stormed out of the house. My grandparents said she was talking about going to the place where it all began. None of us knew what that meant, but it didn't sound good. By this point, I was on edge, half expecting Anna to show up at our door again. But instead, the whole situation took another wild turn. That night, my dad called again, this time from the hospital. He said Anna had been found at the park where they first met, unconscious and barely alive. She'd overdosed on something, though he didn't know what. The police found her after someone reported seeing a woman passed out near a bench. My dad was beside himself, saying he never meant for things to get this far, and that he felt responsible. It was hard to listen to him, honestly. Part of me felt sorry for him, like maybe this was the wake-up call he needed, but another part of me was just angry. Angry that he let it get this far. Angry that he dragged us all into this mess. And angry that he still couldn't see how much damage he'd done. Anna survived, but she's in pretty bad shape. She's in the psychiatric ward now, under suicide watch. My dad's been staying at the hospital with her, trying to keep her stable, though I think he's also just scared of what she might do if he's not there. He keeps calling my mom for advice, but she stopped taking his calls. She told me it's not our problem anymore, and she's right. We've done enough. Meanwhile, the restraining order went through, and my mom is moving forward with the legal process to remove my dad's last name from ours. It's like she's trying to tie up all the loose ends before this situation spirals out of control again. As for me, I'm exhausted. I feel like I'm living in a nightmare that just won't end. Every time I think I've distanced myself from this mess, something pulls me back in. I'm trying to focus on school and my friends, but it's hard when all this drama keeps unfolding around me. I don't know what's going to happen with Anna. Part of me wants to believe she'll get the help she needs and that my dad will finally break free from her grip. But another part of me knows that life isn't that simple. People like Anna don't just disappear, and my dad isn't exactly known for making good decisions. The scariest part? I don't know how this ends. I can't shake the feeling that there's something even worse coming, like we're all standing on the edge of a cliff, waiting for the final push. My mom keeps saying we just need to hold on a little longer, that things will settle down eventually. But I'm not so sure. Every time I think we've hit rock bottom, something happens to prove me wrong.